The Cavs are off to the best start since the Warriors in 2015-16 won 24 games to start the season and eventually ended up being the 73-9 Warriors. Now, they have drawn some comparisons based on how they play and move the ball to some Warriors teams, right? And the Cavs recently played the Warriors, and Draymond Green spoke about it. And I think what he says about this is very interesting, especially if you're a Cavs fan.
The team in the league, after playing against them this past Friday, I personally believe that they have a chance to get to the conference finals in the East.
Okay.
If you can get past Boston, that's on you, right? Like, give yourself a
Boston
chance.
Is still your front runner out the East, huh?
Absolutely. No question. But I think these Cleveland Cavaliers are serious, and I'm going to tell you why I think they're serious. That ball humming so crazy, BD, my head was on goddamn spinning. They was moving that ball so fast. Yep. I was like, whoa, oh, man. I went to help. Oh, this dude's just replaced 3. Like, he just, like, I'm like, he relocated. Oh, my God. Like, they moving the ball so crazy. They got bigs.
Yep.
Which, in turn, allows their guards who's smaller to just funnel you to their bigs, right?
Yep.
So, like, Donovan Mitchell, not a great defender. DG, not a great defender. But if I can funnel you to Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, all I got to do is not be a screen magnet and chase over the screen and force you to drive, right? Makes a difference. Kenny Atkinson, what he's brought to that team, the mindset that he's brought to that team, you see it in Darius Garland. Darius Garland is playing at an all-star level.
So let's touch on this first part of the video that Draymond talks about this Cavs team, right? He's really focused on that ball movement. And I think it's threefold, right? The fact that the Cavs have ball movement, the fact that the Cavs have really good defensive bigs who can also facilitate on the offensive end to move the ball and to keep the ball in movement. And the Cavs have been able to shoot the ball at a high clip too from 3-point. And keep in mind, they're going to get Max Strus back, who should help with that 3-point stuff and also should help them when it comes to some defensive situations, as he is a bigger, kind of more natural 2 guard. Like, he's kind of like 6'5", 6'6". The Cavs really don't have that much size in their backcourt especially. But that part of it, the bigs, I think makes this Cavs team from like a fun team to something that's truly difficult to stop, because you're used to your guards being able to pass well and get the ball to each other. That's something that good NBA teams do all the time. But the Cavs being able to pretty much run lineups out there where you have 5 players who can not only catch and like finish, but also can move the ball to each other. I mean, it just makes it so difficult to stop. And I think Draymond brings up a great point about how that helps the Cavs defensively on the other end, because a lot of concern about Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland is their lack of size and how that hurts you on the defensive end. But if you can just funnel them to your bigs, you will be fine when it comes to finishing, because it's not really about the size difference in the front court to the back court. It's just more about, can you finish over Evan Mobley? Can you finish over Jared Allen? But let's continue here.
All-star level.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. Again.
He said NBA starter all-star.
You see that in Kenny. Evan Mobley.
Crazy.
The way Evan Mobley is playing is what you thought Evan Mobley would be coming out of college. He has not been that. He's shown you he's worthy of being viewed as possible to become that. He's now becoming it.
Yep.
And man, them boys playing some basketball.
So that is a big piece of praise for Evan Mobley, right? Draymond saying he looks like he's finally kind of growing into his potential coming out of USC, because he's not just saying this as an observer. He's saying this as a dude who literally just had to defend Evan Mobley. Like, this isn't just for like a sports talk show or a hot take. Draymond is looking at him and saying, hey, This dude a couple of years ago was real easy to defend. Remember, Draymond's a defensive specialist. He was really instrumental in the Warriors' ball movement, being able to move the ball as well as they did back in the day, almost 10 years ago. It's crazy to think about. But Draymond was a huge part of that. And he's looking at Evan Mobley and saying, wow, he's becoming who I thought he could be coming out of college. He's looking at Darius Garland and saying, hey, he's not just playing at an all-star level. Darius Garland is playing at an all-star starter level. And it brings me back to conversations we used to have on this channel all the time about time, development, and what that really meant for the Cavs, right? And there are going to be times where you look at Darius Garland and you think to yourself, he's just going to be a guy who could be an all-star, right? Like a Drew Holiday, a really solid player, but not somebody that you can build a championship team around. Or Donovan Mitchell, his potential might be here or there, and it's really tough to win a championship when you don't have one of the 5 best players in basketball. Well, if you have 2 players, you know Donovan Mitchell is an all-star starter caliber player. You know that Evan Mobley has the potential to be that, and if Darius Garland can get to this level, play at this level consistently, then all of a sudden you're looking at the Cavs and you're thinking, that's a big 3, right? Usually when we call a team, what we call a team when they have 3 all-star caliber players or all-star starting caliber players, is that's a big 3. That's a super team. Well, Darius is already playing at an all-star starter level. We know Donovan Mitchell is already that. If Evan Mobley can meet him there, then all of a sudden you got a core of 3 players who can be all-star starters. I mean, what is that? Right? Like, that is the potential of this Cleveland Cavaliers team. Will they live up to it? That's a different conversation, right? But right now you can see the vision with Darius Garland a lot clearer than you could last year. You can see the vision with Evan Mobley, right? We've been arguing about this vision for Evan Mobley for like 3 years. I think everybody can now see the vision for Evan Mobley and just how good he can become on both ends of the ball. And then Donovan Mitchell needs no convincing. We know that he's him, right? Let's continue.
You got Okoro hitting shots now. If Okoro is the only guy you can help off of, and he hitting shots,
done. Yeah,
good riddance. You know what I'm saying? So I think this team.
And keep in mind, man, Max Strus ain't even back yet. Right? Like, they're talking about helping off of Okoro. Well, if Max Strus is here, it matters much less what Okoro's able to do. And even if Max Strus doesn't play and Okoro starts, you still got Max Strus to go to if Okoro's not going. Like, so much to think about.
They got something there. And Strus ain't playing. They got depth, right? Like Ty Jerome balling off the bench. George Niang, we know he shoots that thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got Karis LeVert coming off the bench. Max Strus is out. Like, they got depth. I'm telling you, man, I
like how he got back to Max Strus being out. Like, as he said it, he kind of didn't register, and then he was like, oh, Max Strus is out. That kind of adds to that point that he was making about Isaac Okoro. But let's continue.
I like that team. I like that team.
I like the fact that they have energy.
Cavs legend.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Before, when they played, it was like depending on Donovan Mitchell energy or depending on Darius energy, and there was no connective energy. These dudes they are like connected tissue out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Evan Mobley, you know, I say glue, right? Like a super glue. Like, he's starting to become like their super glue guy. Obviously, Allen, you know, he's super talented and, you know, just defensively.
I want to get to something B. Diddy was talking about there, because he was talking about how the Cavs don't feel like they are basically a one-man team, right? Where it's like, hey, if Donovan Mitchell's rolling, we hooping. Or if Darius Garland is rolling, we hooping. And look, with that kind of setup, the Cavs were always going to be a team that was going to win at least 45 games. But what they have now figured out is how to keep this thing humming if Donovan Mitchell's not hooping one game. Or what if Donovan Mitchell misses a game, right? We saw that with the Hornets. they have an identity offensively. That's the thing, right? When Donovan Mitchell's not in there, their identity isn't the team that employs Donovan Mitchell. Their identity isn't the team that employs Darius Garland. Their identity is the system that they run those two players in, that those two players are superstars in. The thing about Kenny Atkinson, right? Because people are arguing about like what is influencing the system, because he coached at Golden State. He comes from the Mike Budenholzer tree, which was at Atlanta for the longest, and then I think Milwaukee. But also Budenholzer comes from Greg Popovich, and I think Greg Popovich actually has the most influence on what Kenny Atkinson likes to do. When you think about the fact that he was under Budenholzer, who is a Popovich disciple, when you think about the fact that he was under Steve Kerr, who also, people forget this, a Pop disciple, right? Like somebody who used to play for Pop, especially at the later part of his career. Also somebody who has experience in the triangle, but they don't run the triangle and go to State. So I think this is more taking it back to the roots. If you want to see something similar, I don't think this is like the Warriors offense, because the Warriors offense was predicated on having two of the best shooters to ever play basketball ever, right? Like that was the Warriors premise. We have two of the best shooters ever, and you have not that, and we're going to beat you. The Cavs' success is more about the system, right? You have some excellent players in the system, but it's more about the execution of that system by those players. If you remember, I think it was the 2014 Spurs were the team that took down the Miami potential dynasty, right? Then Bron came back to Cleveland, all is good. But the 2014 Spurs, if you go back and look at that team, that was, in my mind, and I had to rack my brain to really search through it, maybe you could say last year's Celtics team. But there's been only a few teams to ever be able to win a championship without having somebody who's actively one of the 5 best players in the NBA. And in 2014, the Spurs didn't have that. They had some players who were once one of the 5 best players in the NBA, right? Tim Duncan was once one of the 5 best players in the NBA. They had a player who would become one of the 5 best players in the NBA, Kawhi Leonard, when he won that championship in 2019. But Kawhi Leonard in 2014 was not even close to who he would become in like 2016, 18, 19, like in those later years. He was not Kawhi yet. He was still very raw, able to make some threes, able to give you hell defensively and doing a high level of that, still a really good player. But nobody in 2014 or 2013 was arguing that Kawhi Leonard was one of the 5 best players in basketball. The same is true for Tim Duncan, who by that time was pretty much at the twilight of his career. Like, they were the last team to be able to win it without a true superstar, off the top of my head. Maybe somebody in the comment section can pop it off, but like that Spurs team had some guys who would become a superstar or who were superstars, but at the time of winning that championship, they didn't have anybody who wasn't. But the reason they were able to beat the mighty Heat, who were superstar dominant, was because of how they executed Pop's system or Pop's game plan that year, which was to move the ball around, create chaos, and get the ball to the best shot possible, and execute from there. That's what this Cavs team feels like to me. Donovan Mitchell's a great player. I don't think Donovan Mitchell's one of the 5 best players in the world yet. Same thing with Darius Garland, same thing with Evan Mobley, right? Maybe they become that soon, but as of right now, I don't think Donovan Mitchell is in that conversation yet. Or maybe he's in the conversation, but he's not there yet, right? They're still able to win at such a high clip because they could just have these excellent players in this excellent system, and the execution is so good around it. And this is a testament to just continuity right here. Like, because a lot of people want to blow it up. Part of me wanted to blow it up last year, but the continuity is really paying off because the chemistry that these guys have when they move this ball around, you're seeing it. And now they've developed into such great players while also having this chemistry that it's taking a team that should be really, really good and turning them into a potentially elite team, as they are right now, the best record in basketball.
100%.
And then the way Darius Garland is playing in complement with Donovan Mitchell.
Yes.
In complement, with Niang and the other dudes, like they're playing both like league guards, and they're taking the challenge to be that, you know what I mean, together, as opposed to like, oh, I got it this game, exactly. Oh, he's going that. Like they are figuring it out together, which is very critical. You know what I mean? For them to get to that next level. And to your point, when I saw the game against you guys, I was like, all right, well, this ain't really a real testament, you know what I mean, to what the score was, but these dudes are really good. You know what I mean?
They are really good.
Yeah, so in a real game, it's going to be a really good game because they got so many offensive weapons. They got breakdown players. They got shooters. They got guys who can play ISO one-on-one. And so I think they're dangerous because outside of a lot of teams, they have more guys who can, if they have the ball with 5 seconds and they got the ball in their hand, they can get their shot off.
Absolutely.
Like when you look at a lot of different teams, you go through New York, you go through Philly, you go even Boston, right? Like you can't throw the ball to anybody on Boston and expect him to get a shot with 5 seconds. Is going back to Jaylen Brown, is going back to Tatum.
That's another strength. Like when people try to compare this Cavs team to like the Atlanta Hawks or something like that, when they had Jeff Teague starting, they had the 4 All-Stars. I get why people are doing that, but also look at how many guys on this Cavs team can just go flat, get you a bucket. Like we just saw Evan Mobley get you 22. We see Darius Garland be able to get you buckets. We've seen Donovan Mitchell be able to get you buckets. Those are your plus tier bucket getters, right? Like now, Jared Allen not going to get a ton of buckets on his own, but he's not incapable of getting a bucket, right? He's not somebody that you're going to give the ball and ask to create, but he's still somebody who can create a bucket if that bucket is there to be made. But then you look at like some of the next level guys, right? Ty Jerome is getting buckets right now. Like he's creating buckets. Say what you want about George Niang, 99% of the time is probably true, but look, this is the 1%. Okay, George Niang out here getting buckets right now. It's kind of crazy to think about. Maybe that's not the case by the end of the year. Most likely it's not the case by the end of the year. But even George Niang out here getting you buckets. Obviously, we know on the right night, Karis LeVert can get you buckets. Karis LeVert can get it done. Karis LeVert can get a shot. Even somebody like Craig Porter Jr. can go get you a bucket, right? Like they have guys on the floor at all times who can get you a bucket. And it's so stark to watch this team right now and remember how they used to look back in the first year when they had JB and all these guys developing, where it was like, man, Darius Garland is legitimately the only guy who can get you a bucket right now. And now you look at this team and they have so many bucket getters, but they have so many different types of players who can get you buckets in different ways or create in different ways, right? Because Jared Allen not going to create off the dribble. But what Jared Allen can do is set a really good screen to help one of your perimeter players get a bucket. Like that's how they are consistently able to get buckets, even with Ty Jerome, right? Because they have the garbage man, Jared Allen, there to clean it all up and do what needs to be done. But that's my thoughts. Thought Draymond had some interesting thoughts about the Cavs. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Peace.